Hello, and welcome to the season finale of The Nightly Met. This is sadly our last episode of the year, so let's just jump right into it. Our first guest tonight you have seen perform on our show before with his band, The Wooden Spoons, and now, back to talk about his solo act, please welcome Michael Howard.
Just can't stop killing me, taking control.
Perfect. Well, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. So you have the band, The Wooden Spoons.
That's correct.
And your solo act.
Yes.
So talk about your solo act a little bit. What's the difference between the two?
Well, there's less people.
Well, okay, less people, so numbers. Genre music different?
The genre is similar. Something I really like about it is I get to bring the volume down.
Okay.
I get to be a lot more off the cuff. You don't have to plan things
Yep.
with anyone else. And so that's an arena for me to test new material.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you take some of that stuff and then implement it in the
That's
Wooden
where
Spoons.
it all starts with the
It
with the
also,
solo
so
act. Yeah.
did the solo act start first and then you went to the Wooden Spoons?
Yeah, that's correct. The Wooden Spoons is a fairly recent development.
Okay.
As a collaboration, and what's great about it is that it's three people who all bring their own solo performance to it.
Okay.
So these are three solo writers, solo performers.
Okay.
And then we get to collaborate together.
So it's just four people that said, I don't want a night off, let's all play together on those other nights. Perfect, yeah. So how does that work with you being in both bands? Do you kind of just switch back and forth with performances and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I guess I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
I don't know exactly what I'm asking either. Maybe what I was more asking, so like you kind of manage both of them, is that correct?
Well, so I manage all the solo stuff, definitely.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the Wooden Spoons it's a collaboration on all levels, which is fantastic, which means I'm not the only one booking. I'm not the only one.
Okay, so it's
right,
a team effort. on
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Okay,
And
perfect. That's what I was
That's
wondering.
a joy about it, really.
I like it.
Yeah.
So how long have you been performing for?
About 6 years.
6 years. And how did you get into music in the first place?
Well, I've always loved it. I started playing drums when I was about 11.
Okay.
That was my first love musically, and then I just ran through a whole bunch of instruments.
Yeah.
Basically, so saxophone, cello. I played cello for 7 years, and at some point there, I picked up guitar because I was writing a lot from very early on, and but it was always a little awkward, and I realized at some point I was like, oh, these are songs.
Yeah.
And so I started playing guitar and trying to translate them into songs.
Yeah.
And that was about 12 years ago, I guess, that I started doing that.
Very cool. I love to ask this question with all our musical guests because it's different for everyone, I feel like. But what is that songwriting process like for you? How does that work?
Well, more often it's changed over time. It definitely started out as writing. There's stream of consciousness. I'd be affected by something that was going on in my life,
Yeah.
which was just very, very personal, and then from that, find a seed of something or a little
Exactly.
kernel that I wanted to expound upon. But really, at this point, it's actually more fun because I've kind of given myself license to tell stories that I didn't have to live through.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I like
it opens up a lot of options.
Yeah. So it's storytelling, basically.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
What are your songs like? What are some of the ones what are your favorite songs you've done?
I always try to do something a little different with each one. I think that's usually when the next one happens, is that I identify something that, an element that I haven't attended to before, and then I'll try to pursue that.
So today you're playing with your guitar.
That's correct.
Today, but you played many instruments. Do you have a favorite one that you like to perform with?
My favorite instrument to perform with is mandolin.
Mandolin.
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's very portable. No.
You don't have to lug stuff around.
Yeah. It's just been, it's the most recent instrument that I've learned. I picked it up about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And by then I had kind of learned how to learn to play an instrument.
Yeah.
So that process was pretty seamless, and I really love just adapting it to styles that you might not expect to hear it in, and so that's something that I do a lot. There's a number of bands that I'll just hop in with around town with mandolin. It's very fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And you're doing 2 songs for us tonight, so
That's
talk
correct.
about those a little bit. What songs are you doing?
Right. So I mentioned being able to tell stories
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't have to live through. So I'm going to play one that's very, very personal, and then the other is a story about someone else that I just found really inspiring. That song is called Marie, and this is the story of a man that I worked for when I first moved back to Colorado a couple years ago. I own a construction company. I do a lot of contracting work, and so I meet all sorts of characters.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorites. And I would come back from work sunburned on one side of my body because we would go out in the field, and he would start telling me stories, and it would just go on for hours. We wouldn't do anything. We would get nothing done. I think he just wanted somebody to hang out with. And but the first story he told me was about his first wife, who was in this car accident that actually rendered her unable to remember him or their kids.
Oh, wow.
And over the course of the next 4 years or so, she was able to put some of those memories back together, but he never quite came back into the picture. He's a really wild guy, and I was just I was really touched by that story and hearing about how he just the idea of amnesia, and so playing with that. The verses are you'll see they're just little pictures of different parts of his life, and these are all stories that he told me.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Very cool.
So that's that one.
So that's one song, and then the second song?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the second song, Dream Wolf, is one that I mean, this one's really personal, but it's really about my little brother, and I mean, it's directly referenced. I'm kind of brutal with people in my life. I'll name them, and I don't change names, and but it's really kind of a song for anyone who's been really close to someone who was, in this case, it was a drug addiction, but anyone who's been struggling with something to the point that you really have to understand where the boundaries of being able to help them lie. Right, so it just addresses that.
Very nice. Well, I think storytelling, especially through song, is an amazing thing. So I can't wait to hear you perform.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on. And everyone else should stick around because when we come back, Michael's going to perform for us. But first, let's take a quick commercial break.
The sky is